Professor Hans Richter.
I don't have to explain Dada. You all know what Dada is. But it was created as a movement of protest in Zurich. Protest not only in the world of art, but also in the world of politics. There were immigrants from Germany, from Romania, Janko and Zara, from Austria, Werner. They were not only against the war, but they wanted to express a new kind of mentality. They wanted to include arts into the fight for a new ethic.
As I'm concerned, there are no longer any political parties. There are only Germans. Wilhelm II,
1914. Revolted by the slaughter of World War I, we devoted ourselves in Zurich to the fine arts. While far away there was artillery thunder, we sang, painted, glued together, and wrote poems to our heart's content. Hans Arp.
In this house on February the 5th, 1916, the Cabaret Voltaire was opened and Dadaism founded.
Als ich in Zürich ankam, hatte Ball schon das Cabaret Voltaire gegründet. Wie das Wort Voltaire andeutet, war er damals ein liberaler Rationalist und ein äußerster Kriegsgegner. Ich war ebenfalls ein Kriegsgegner und wir alle waren Kriegsgegner. In diesem Sinne war der Dadaismus, von dem damals im Anfang noch keine Rede war, ein moralischer Aufstand. Später, als der Dadaismus sich dann formulierte, kam es zu einem Konflikt zwischen dem moralischen Aufstand und den ästhetischen Neigungen von uns, wodurch unser Widerstand gegen die Kunst sich manifestierte. Das ist die berühmte Anti-Art-Einstellung des Dadaismus.
From Hugo Ball's diaries, 1916, May 24. We were all there when Janko arrived with his masks, and everyone immediately tried one on. Then something strange happened. The masks not only immediately called for specific costumes, they also dictated a very theatrical behavior that verged on madness. 1916, June 23. I have invented a new kind of verse, verses without words, or sound poems. The first of these verses I read out tonight. I had constructed a special costume for the occasion.
From Zara Zurich Chronicle, 1918, July 23. Miser Hall, Tristan Zara Soiree. Manifesto, Antithesis, Thesis, Anti-Philosophy. 1919, April 9, Kaufleuten Hall. Non plus ultra, 1,500 persons filled the hall. From July 1917 on, the magazine Dada appears in Zurich. In January 1920, Zara goes to Paris, where the last numbers of Dada are printed.
Teuber Arp, Sophie, wife of Hans Arp. As a painter, had great influence on the Zurich Dadaism. Paper and cloth pictures, embroidery, Dada heads, marionettes, dancer.
Soldier and army at the same time, 1918, marionette figure. Elementary forms, 1917, gouache and embroidery. She loved dancing, and for a time she preferred this to her creative work. Sophie Teuber was a teacher in the Zurich School of Arts and Crafts. Her teaching made her essential work and mine possible. I must remind the reader that we lived in Dada times, and that the Dadaists had an extremely bad reputation. Thus, the head of the School of Arts and Crafts intimated to Sophie she was to give up taking part in the Dadaist manifestations, or else, as they say in Switzerland, she would lose her teacher's job. She now saw herself compelled to wear a mask and pseudonym for her dance act, Hans Arp.
Raoul Hausmann, 1918. Kurt Schwitters, about 1922. Sarah Tristan co-founded Dada in Zurich, 1916. Editor of the magazines Cabaret Voltaire and Dada, co-founder of Paris Dada. Later on, collaborated with the Surrealists.
Diarrhea is also a sentiment. War, business, poetic element, infernal propeller economic spirit, Germain Fautisme, national anthem, posters, Raymond tossed on stage, savage outburst, Tristan Zara.
Cerner Walter. Editor of the magazine Sirius. Main work, Letzte Lockerung, Hanover, 1920. Last heard of in 1922 in the USSR, where he had gone as a convinced communist. Schwitters Kurt. From 1918 on, developed his one-man Dadaism, which he called Merz. Emigrated to Norway in 1937. His Merz structure in Hanover 1943 destroyed in an air raid. Merz structure number 2 in Lysaker, Norway, burnt by children at play 1951. Merz structure number 3 in Little Langdale near Ambleside, England, didn't get beyond initial stage.
Merz picture 1C, 1920.
He was not against art. As a matter of fact, he created a new art form with his collage, which was completely different from anything we had seen before. And he explained to Hausmann, for instance, that he nailed his paintings and he pasted his collage in order to enrich normal paintings.
Mertz picture 25A, The Starry Heavens, 1920. Dislocated Energies, 1920, Mertz picture. Victory picture around 1922. The smallest Mertz picture in the world, 1920, 1 7/8 by 1 1/8 inches.
Uns. Schon Bevölkerung Entlastungskriegsschienen. Es ging an Berliner und noch etwas stattfindendes am Kopfe. Reichsgerichtsprozesse gegen die Staatsaußenangehörigen werden alle Personen, die imstande sind, Beweiskräftiges zu liefern oder darauf hinzuholen, die durch die Presse bekannt wird. Die Liste der Beschuldigungen finden Sie von Mittwoch, den 11. bis wegen erwartenden Eingänge, bitten wir Abenddatum, Kriegsschauplatz,
Kurt Schwitters spricht sein Gedicht
Kurt Schwitters reading his poem to Anna Blume, recorded in 1922.
Meiner 27 Sinne, ich liebe dir. Du deiner bist dir, ich dir, du mir, wir. Das gehört beiläufig nicht hierher. Wer bist du, ungezähltes Frauenzimmer? Du bist du. Die Menschen sagen, du wärest. Lass sie sagen. Sie wissen nicht, wie der Kirchturm steht.
Spricht Teile seiner Sonate mit Urlauten.
Der Weber, Fünfe, Weber, Fünfe, vergiss wie je, der Zimmer ihm bist so, du ka, Rinseke de bebe hunskermu, Sion fesju rinskermu, Rakkete bebe, Rom so, Sion fesju hunskermu, Sion fesju rinskermu, Rakkete bebe, Rakkete bebe, Sunbavete U-T-T-W-W O-B-B-B-B-B O-T-T-T-T-T O-Rinsekete-B-B
Gallows of Lust, 1919. At first I tried to create new art forms out of the remains of older cultures. This led to Mertz painting, a new form of painting that uses any sort of material, pelican colors as well as rubbish. Thus I experienced the revolution in its funniest form and am termed a Dadaist without being one. Kurt Schwitters, 1926.
In painting, too, I like to use the pieces of everyday garbage for the composition. That's how my Mertz paintings came into existence, and especially my great pillar. What this pillar is? In the first place, it's only one of many, of about 10. It's called Cathedral of Erotic Misery, or COEM for short. We're living in an era of abbreviations. Moreover, it's unfinished on principle. Kurt Schwitter's 1931.
Kate stands on the Merz structure in Hanover. The cathedral harbored far more than this erotic misery, which perhaps was rather complicated, but less tragic than his struggle to achieve pure form, which finally triumphed over the chaos of the most obscure erotic caverns and the labyrinth of the caverns of history and friendship.
Invitation to Metz soirée. Original poetry. Grotesques, satires, lyrics, epic poetry. Dada, primal sound poetry. Dancing and refreshments after the lecture. When you go home, tell everyone what a jolly time you've had.
And thus the word März was born.
Starting with the number Holland Dada, Schwitter's publishes from 1923 until 1932 in his own März Verlag, all in all 21 numbers of his März magazine. In it he propagated his März ideas, März typography in conjunction with Lisitsky, März architecture, März poetry, März and Dada friends, März painting, März structure, März theater, März advertising, and himself. From about 1922 onwards, Schwitters turned away from Dadaism and inclined to the Dutch Distance movement. Richter Hans came to Zurich at the end of 1916, championed the abstract films together with Egerling. Painter and writer, professor in the City College, New York. After his early abstract work of the Zurich years, he developed his role pictures, in which geometric forms are varied in accordance with theoretical principles, just as in his first films.
Fantastic Prayers by Richard Huelsenbeck, with 7 woodcuts by Hans Arp, Zurich, 1916.
Ich lese jetzt das Gedicht Kaum hatten wir. Kaum hatten wir dem Mann die Hosen abgezogen, stand er da in Fülle und erstaunt über so viel Begeisterung. Und er sagte errötend, wie können Sie? Und wir sagten, wer will, der kann auch. Und die beste Tugend ist Tüchtigkeit, wenn man es richtig ansieht. Und der Mann sagte, es sei gut, und wir schüttelten uns die Hände. Dies war die Zeit, als der Glocken Sing-Sang die Sünde betörte, und sie traten aus dem Haus, die Brillen wegwerfend, und sie warfen die Krücken fort, und als die Krücken fort waren, warfen sie die Tücher fort, die rosafarbenen und die fliederfarbenen Halskrawatten, und als die fliederfarbenen Halskrawatten fort waren, warfen sie sich selber fort, und sich fortwerfend warfen sie sich vorwärts. Und wir trafen sie auf dem Markt, wo die Fahnen den Kaiser begrüßten. Der Kaiser war ein junger Mann, und er hatte die Welt unter sich, und er trug den Reichsapfel wie ein Bruchband als aufrechter Mann, der er war. Und er sagte, er sei so aufrecht, wie es sich machen ließ. Und er hielt den Reichsapfel hoch gegen das Volk bis zum Adamsapfel, und das Volk warf ihm Äpfel zu, und alle freuten sich über die Äpfel.
Huelsenbeck refused to speak English for this film. As he said, the Dadaists in Germany spoke German.
Berlin, 1918. Collective Dada Manifesto. The Dadaists are the first not to take an aesthetic attitude towards life, and this they accomplish by hacking all the slogans of ethics, culture and inwardness, which are merely cloaks for weak muscles, into their components. Blast the aesthetic ethical attitude, blast the bloodless abstraction of expressionism, blast the literary hollowheads and the theories of improving the world, for Dadaism in word and image, for all the Dada things that go on in the world. To be against this manifesto is to be a Dadaist. Signed by Zara, Jung, Gross, Huelsenbeck, Hausmann and others.
Dadaism demands 1. The international revolutionary union of all creative and intellectual men and women on the basis of radical communism. 2. The introduction of progressive unemployment through comprehensive mechanization of every field of activity. Only by unemployment does it become possible for the individual to achieve certainty as to the truth of life and finally become accustomed to experience. 3. The immediate expropriation of property, socialization, and the communal feeding of all. Further, the erection of cities of light and gardens which will belong to society as a whole and prepare man for a state of freedom. The Dadaist Revolutionary Central Council, German Group, Hausmann, Huelsenbeck.
In Cologne, there was Max Ernst and Johannes Bargeld, the son of a banker, a very good name for a banker. And the father, Bargeld, was very happy that the son got embarked upon the Dada movement, because he had been a politician, a communist before, and the father, as a banker, didn't like it.
Financed by Bargeld's father and edited by Max Ernst in February 1920, appears Die Schamade, Dilettantia Rise, with drawings, woodcuts and reproductions by Ernst Arp Bargeld. Bargeld, anthropophile, anthropophile? Stop a minute, please. Anthropophile tapeworm, assemblage. Bargeld, drawing. 1920, exhibition Dada Vorfrühling with the collaboration of Arp, Bargeld, Max Ernst. Paintings, sculptures, drawings, fluido sketchbook, vulgar dilettantism. Entrance through a public urinal.
A typewritten collage by Max Ernst and Bargeld was read out as a resolution. Report of the Extraordinary Conference, Dada, Central Office, G5. Amendment to Amendment, EEE, In order to render Dada intercourse, bread coupons are to be introduced in all countries. Signed, Bargeld, certified to be true, Max Ernst.
The exhibition was closed on account of pornographic tendencies, but it reopened in May, when it turned out that the only picture to which exception had been taken was a deux. Dada is victorious. Janko Marcel. architect. Published many of his woodcuts and reliefs in Dada magazines. Lives in Ein Hod, Israel. Plaster Relief, 1917. Fleur Géométrique, 1917.
Among us were neither blasé people nor cynics, actors nor anarchists who took the Dada scandal seriously. Marcel Janko, 1957.
Merz aims only at art because no man can serve two masters.
Berlin Dada developed more politically. George Gross, Hartfield, Herzfelde, Jung. They were political fighters. As a matter of fact, they called themselves Bolsheviks, and they probably were. They worked hand in hand with Mehring, with Hausmann, with Hülsenbeck, but
Wir waren keine Ideologen in dem Sinne, dass wir eine prägnante Idee hatten.
We were not ideologists in the sense of having a specific idea, though we were revolutionaries, and revolutionaries, moreover, that stood very far to the left. We wanted to change the world, but without any particular idea.
Hausmann Roll. Dada Soap, co-founder of Berlin Dada, together with Hülsenbeck, introduced the letterist sound poem, discovered photomontage at the same time as Hartfield, published the review Der Dada, 1919-20, hid from the Nazis in France. Tête mécanique, assemblage, 1919. Synthetic cinema of painting. Miuna, 1918, Gogh, 1918. The Art Critic, 1919.
We called this technique photomontage as it demonstrated our aversion to pretending to be artists. We regarded ourselves as engineers. We pretended to construct, to assemble our work in the style of a mechanic. Raoul Haussmann.
Tatlin at Home, 1920. Collage of pasted papers and gouache. Head, photocollage 1923, with a photograph of himself. German Freedom 1920, drawing. Hindenburg, Man of Iron 1920, drawing.
Blood. Wilhelm II. God with us. Victory. Hurrah!
We must win.
Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. 12 satires by Raoul Haussmann. Illustrations by the author.
Hartfield, John. Monteur Dada, brother of Wieland Herzfelder, the director of the Malik Verlag, turned photocollage into a political weapon. Died in Berlin, 1968. Collage by John Hartfield from the underground newspaper Neue Jugend, New Youth, of June 1917. John Hartfield teaches the intellectual Dada. Title page of Dada number 3, Berlin, 1920, with a montage by John Hartfield. Photocollage for the dust jacket of Tucholsky's book Germany Above All, 1929.
Höchst, Hannah. Participated in Berlin Dada as Haussmann's friend. Twitter stuck on the last H in her name. Very successful in the field of photocollage. Lives in Berlin.
Da, 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 da.
My home sayings. Dada is the police's police. Dangerous is only an undecided mixture.
My Home Sayings, Photocollage 1922. Cut with the Kitchen Knife, Collage of Pasted Papers 1919. High Finance, 1923, Collage. Roma, 1925. In 1925, Hannah Hirsch began to translate the technique of photocollage into oil painting. In the style of photocollage, she mounts excerpts from reality. The Journalists, 1925. From the fall of 1922 until the spring of 1923, Schwitters, together with Nelly and Theo van Doesburg, went on a Dada tour of Holland that was to become famous. Our appearance in Holland was like a magnificent triumphal march. Our audiences feel that they are Dada, and that they must screech Dada, shout Dada, lisp Dada, sing Dada, howl Dada, swear Dada. Schwitters, 1922.
Theo van Doesburg. Photocollage 1922. Portrait of Nelly van Doesburg.
In 1922 and 1923, Schwitters collaborates on Theo van Doesburg's magazine Meccano, Style, Math, and Dada. Hultenbeck, Richard. Came in 1916 from Berlin to Zurich, where he became a co-founder of Dada, studied medicine there. Returned to Berlin in January 1917, where he and Haussmann founded the Berlin Dada. Emigrated to the USA. The Fantastic Prayers came out in a new edition in the Malik Verlag, Berlin 1920. Illustrations, George Gross.
The parson's doing up his fly, rataplan, his fly and his hair sticking out his ears. Chupuravanta buru, pupaganda buru. Ishari Mungaburu, his fly. Kampampa Kamo, his fly. Katapena Kamo, Katapena Kara. Chupuravanta da umba dao. Da umba hi.
Gross, George. Dada Marshall. Published in Berlin's Dada magazines, his anti-bourgeois and anti-clerical drawings. Breaks with the Dadaists, 1922, moves to New York, 1933, died in Berlin, 1959.
The Suicide, watercolor 1980. The Little Women Slayer, oil on canvas 1980. Beauty, fain would I praise thee 1990. Remember Uncle August, the Unhappy Inventor, 1990. Oil on canvas and collage. Down marries her pedantic automaton George in May 1920. John Hartfield is very glad of it. Metamechanic construction after Professor Raoul Hausmann. Collage and gouache. The Diamond Racketeer, 1980. Street Scene, 1920. With brush and scissors, reproductions after colored originals from the years 1919 to 1922, Malik Falad.
If, then, one calls my work art, depends on whether one believes that the future belongs to the working class. George Gross, 1924. Lithograph from the set The Robbers, 1922. In my domain it shall come to pass that potatoes and thin beer will be a holiday treat. Friedrich von Schiller. Though the Dadaists, especially the Berlin group, were declared enemies of the ideology of Italian futurism, they nevertheless took over some of its forms of expression, like Brutism as anti-music, the simultaneous poem, and typocollage. Egerling, Viking. Friendship with the Dadaists in Zurich had, however, his own concept of painting, counterpoint of painting. Died in Ascona, 1925.
He was engaged on finding out the rules of a plastic counterpoint. He composed and drew the first elements for it. He was working himself to death. Hands up.
Ernst Max. Co-founded with Bargeld and Arp the Cologne Dada, Dada Max, editor of Die Chamada, cooperation with Arp and Bargeld on the so-called Patagagas, anticipated surrealism in his collage and paintings already since 1921. Moves to Paris where he joins the Surrealists.
Self-portrait, photo collage, 1919. Bird, wood sculpture around 1919. The fruit of a long experience, painted wood and metal, 1919. Untitled, cliché print and drawing, 1919. Ça me fait pisser, dessin mécanique, 1919. Untitled Photo Collage, 1919-1920. C'est le chapeau qui fait l'homme, collage 1920.
Angiosperm. Stapleman gymnospermal water former.
Just out, Fiat Modes, 8 signed lithographs by Max Ernst. 1, 2, 3... One rainy day in 1919, my excited gaze was provoked by the pages of a printed catalogue. The advertisements illustrated objects relating to anthropological, microscopical, psychological, mineralogical, and paleontological research. By simply painting or drawing, it sufficed to add to the illustrations a color, a line, a landscape foreign to the objects represented. A desert, a sky, a geological section, a floor, a single straight horizontal, expressing the horizon and so forth. These changes, no more than docile reproductions of what was visible within me, recorded a faithful and fixed image of my hallucinations. Max Ernst, 1936. Scale, 1 to 300,000. The plans of attack of the assimilation fibers on the Dada fortress, recognized in time. Collage, 1920.
In 1921, the first Max Ernst exhibition with those collages opened in Paris.
Together with the Paris Dadaists, Max Ernst set out on the road to surrealism.
Dada in the Tyrol, the singers' competition. Max Ernst, the preparation of glue from bones, collage. The last number of the Dada magazine, published by Sarah, Art, Ernst and Breton during a holiday stay in Tarens, Tyrol.
Sarah hat sein Leben lang behauptet, dass das Wort Dada erfunden hätte. Er sagte das aufgrund einer Mitteilung von Arp, der im Scherz eines Tages behauptete,
I declare that Tristan Tzara found the word Dada on February the 8th, 1916 at 6 p.m. I myself, as well as my 12 children, were present when Tzara first uttered this word, which generated justifiable enthusiasm in us. This took place in the Café de la Terrasse in Zurich, and I had a crumb in my left nostril. I am convinced that this word has no meaning whatsoever, and that only fools and Spanish professors can take an interest in dates. What interested us was the spirit of Dada, and we were all Dada before there was any Dada. The morality of fools and their belief in genius makes me want to.
Scheißen.
Tarens, August the 6th, 1921, Arp.
in Wirklichkeit wurde das Wort Dada von Ball und mir entdeckt im Zimmer von Ball zu einer Zeit, als uns der Besitzer des Kabarett Voltaires erklärt hatte, das Kabarett sei bankrott. Und wir müssten etwas tun und eine richtige Chanteuse engagieren. Wir taten das auch, uns meldeten sich einige, aber die meisten hatten Namen, die wir für das Kabarett nicht benutzen konnten. So gingen wir durch das Dictionnaire Larousse. Mein Finger ging von Seite zu Seite.
My finger moved from page to page, and on page D I stopped and I found the word Dada. And I said Dada, and Ball repeated Dada, and thus the word Dada was born.
Und damit war das Wort Dada geboren.
What is Dada? An art form, a philosophy, a policy, a fire insurance, or a state religion? Is Dada really energy, or is it nothing, that is, everything?
Dada Code, Dadaist Pocket Atlas will appear in January 1920. World's greatest standard edition. Central Bureau of the Dadaist movement in Germany. Hultenbeck, Hausmann, Bader, Mehring, Ross, Hartfield. The atlas was never published, despite much preparatory work. The Dadaists involved could reach no agreement. The texts used have in part been published in Berlin Dada magazines, also many of the pictures.
Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. is very much a Dadaist affair, Hülsenbeck.
Dada Johannes, Swabian pietist who converted to Dadaism in Berlin, where, as the high priest of Dada, he organized political happenings. A friend of Haussmann, died in a German old folks' home.
This is the apparition of the supreme Dada in the clouds of the sky. Illustration from the Dadaco with kind permission of the Kurzwald Verlag, Munich.
In Berlin Cathedral, Baader, speaking from the organ loft, interrupted the sermon with the words, "What is Christ to the common man? He doesn't give a damn."
At the founding convention of the First German Republic in Weimar, he let Dadaist pamphlets rain down from the gallery. Dadaists against Weimar, the Dadaist Central Committee of World Revolution.
Special edition, the Green Corps.
The president of the universe is sitting in the saddle of the white horse Dada.
The preferred form for the supreme Dada's utterances was collage.
Publicity, for me, purely business. I am the human state in which the pinnacle of deity settled to complete the world game of being human on the earth's sky.
In my thoughts, there is room for you all. Why are yours so small? The trumpets of Dada are the trumpets of the world judgment. The trumpets sound all notes.
The author of the book, 14 Letters of Christ in His Home. Photo collage, 1920. The clergy of Berlin are invited. Dear Zara, I am eager to know whether Haussmann will succeed in mobilizing the German press on his behalf on April the 9th. Bargeld, Alfred Grunewald. Banker's son, editor of a communist magazine, Der Ventilator, cooperates with Max Ernst in the Cologne Dada. Collage, photomontage, assemblage. The human eye and a fish, the latter petrified. Collage, 1920. Divided Venus during the Game of Kings, 1920. Ball, Hugo. Berlin, 1915, literary activity with Hülsenbeck. Pacifist, co-founder of Zurich Dada, which he left in 1917. Political activity in Switzerland. Converted to Catholicism. Main works, Flight from Time. Fenderender, der Phantast, Verlag, Arche.
Berlin, November 1980.
Published by the Berlin Dadaists, there appears The Free Road Against Property. The articles by Baader, Haussmann, Jung are signed with false names.
Hunger, work, bloated guts.
If someone's starving, he shows little trust in the government. He proves a burden to the new organization.
If someone's working, he has other thoughts instead of hunger. Above all, he can sleep better.
If someone's belly is full, he's not hungry. He has no need to work.
This is Bloody Serious, Satirical Weekly, 1919, illustrations by Gross.
Against exploiters, blows that cut through the thickest skin. Deadly effect.
Everyone his own football, Malik Verlag.
The Bankrupt, 1920. Drawings by George Gross.
Most of the magazines are forbidden after a few numbers.
Fit for active service.
In 1919-1920, under the direction of Raoul Haussmann, there appear 3 numbers of the magazine Der Dada. Collages by Hartfield, Haussmann, Gross. Manifestos, texts by Haussmann, Baader, Zara, Hülsenbeck, Herzfelder, etc. On a collage by Hartfield was printed the program of the Great Berlin Dada Fair of 1920. It was to be the climax of Berlin Dada. First International Dada Fair, organized by Gross, Haussmann, Hartfield. Exhibition and sale of Dadaist products. The Dada movement leads to the abolition of the art trade. The photocollage and assemblage cause a storm of indignation.
Art is dead. Long live Tatlin's new machineries.
I can do without food and drink, but not without Dada, Dada Marshal George Gross.
Nor me, John Hartfield.
Neither can I, Raoul Hausmann.
Jean Hans founded Dada in Zurich together with Hugo Ball, Richard Hülsenbeck, Marcel Janko and Tristan Tzara in 1916. Equally important as a painter, poet and sculptor.
Collage 1915 with planes and curves. I further developed gluing techniques by carrying through the arrangement without any plan, quite automatically. I called this working according to the laws of chance.
Dada ist ohne Sinn wie die Natur. Dada ist für die Natur und gegen die Kunst.
Automatic drawing 1916. The law of chance, which contains all other laws and is as incomprehensible for us as the prime origins of life can only be experienced by completely yielding oneself to the subconscious. I maintain that he who observes this law will create pure life. Hans A.
Dada ist moralisch wie die Natur.
Fleur Marteau, 1916. Painted wood relief. Dada Collage, 1918. Torso, wood relief against free painting around 1917-1918. Last. Mask, wood relief, 1918. Paolo and Francesca, 1919. Construction, 1919. Construction, 1920. Painted wood relief.
Das Leben ist für den Dadaisten der Sinn der Kunst.
Arpad, 1923. Schnorrhat, the sea, a navel, the naval bottle, schnorr clock, egg racket, Arabian 8.
German newsreel 1942.
Pounded and crushed, the Dadaists were driven out and official art resumed its way.
savings bank that pays perpetual interest. Dada doubles your income.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all heartily to the auction of Tristan Tzara's library.
Dada protects you from devaluation and malnutrition. Dadaco, 1920.
Nummer 25 auch mit der Schätzung begonnen. 150 Franken, 160, 70, 80, 90. Fetzer, Wieser, Dada Sieg, 1720. Zum, hurra, hurra, hurra. Die große Pleite, Gegengewicht 500. Zum, Oberdada, schwarz 900, schwarz 1900, 3000. 12.000. Morgen noch 12.000 mit.